Welcome to it, sports fans. It is the MKT Show. It is the 8th of June in the second year of COVID. That is 2021. We're having the Olympics and Euros 2020 in 2021, and it feels weird, a little bit like you in the Matrix or back in a bad relationship. Thought we left 2020 last year. Not going to happen. 2020 said, forget it, I'm going nowhere. And I'm going to live forever, which is Fame. Great song, by the way. Absolutely great song. And if you don't know that reference, you're too young anyway. And nobody cares about young people anymore. I've decided today's show is all about the olds like me. So if you don't get that reference of I'm going to live forever, I don't care. I just do not care. Shout out to the old people out there. And shout out to me, for goodness sake. Welcome to Sports Fans. The MKT Show today is loaded. It's loaded. Like a question from James' girlfriend that might go like this. Do I look fat in these jeans? Now that's a loaded question. That's a loaded question. Do not answer that question. That question is made to ensure that you're going to suffer for the next 6 to 12 months. If you're a smart man, it's called happy wife, happy life. The correct answer to that is, what do you think you look like in those jeans? And then you quickly pivot away or take a fake phone call and get the hell out of there immediately before you say something dumb, because that's what guys do, right? Today, ladies and gentlemen, you know, it hasn't come up. Obviously, I've got COVID. I mean, that is something which I know most of you haven't been able to sleep. You're wondering to yourselves, does MKT have COVID? Doesn't he have COVID? How's he feeling? I'm starting to do a little bit better, you know, and I'm not one of these people who wants to lie in bed all day. It's very annoying. So today was the first day I actually felt like, okay, I can actually do this thing. I have a trainer who has been phoning me every single day at 4:45, which is our regular training time, and he's not letting me change my routine. And this is why you got to get good partnerships in life. He understands me, and he knows that I like discipline. And I did not ask him to do that, by the way. Last week, was I grumbling and miserable about that? Absolutely. In hindsight, great to have a trainer who understands me mentally. So you got to have a good team. Just like you got to know, James, pivot the hell out of there if somebody asks you if they look a little chunky in some jeans. Otherwise, you're going to be in big trouble. You're going to be in big trouble. James shaved his beard yesterday, and he was kind of figuring out whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, or was it about him? Was it about other people? It looks a little bit tidier. Now he needs to cut the hair. I mean, he's starting to look a little bit ridiculous. He doesn't know how to condition his hair, and that's a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only coffee influencer, James Illingsley. Jimbo, what's going on, pal?
Hi. First of all, I am a master at avoiding loaded questions. Secondly, the hair thing was going to be a thing last weekend. No, the weekend of that week we found out COVID thing.
Okay.
That's why the hair thing hasn't happened yet. So it was going to be a thing, but because of people like you who have COVID and are inconsiderate, have now forced me to isolate in my house. It's not about you with your COVID. It's about me.
Yeah, it's true. That's very, very true. So I was on a show with a gentleman called Gareth Cliff this morning, and you know, people say I'm not being sensitive enough about COVID. So some people have given him feedback and said I'm being a little bit disrespectful about COVID, and I think to myself, I wish I could give them the middle finger. It would actually make my life. Nobody cares what you think about your own life. COVID is, it's you know what it is about people that I've realized. People who panic want you to panic, and because I'm not panicking, I think it makes these other people feel uncomfortable. It's like, why am I gonna panic? I'm healthy, I'm not sick, I'm not dying. Now, a tiny fraction of society has died, right? And I fully respect that. COVID's been vicious to some people, but I'm not gonna pretend to be dying so that I can get empathy. I'm not dying. So why must I pretend that I'm in the middle of a pandemic which like I've never seen before, when I've been slightly uncomfortable for a week and a bit, you know? It's not the most sick I've ever been, not even close, not even in the top 10. And what? You want me to pretend like I'm sick? I mean, well, what do people want, Chedra?
I don't think people want you to pretend anything, but maybe sometimes it comes across as like insensitive, because the truth is people are dying, and like people are losing mothers and fathers and relatives to this, and they've had sort of COVID has been really close to home for some people, and I think some people struggle to deal with that, especially when it's a loss or someone's in ICU or whatever. So I think like it can come across as insensitive, but hey man, I'm chilling, so.
But hold on, I understand what you're saying. My question is, there are people dying in Cameroon every day. Do I now go and say, oh my gosh, people are dying in Cameroon, now I have to act as though people are dying in my life? Am I a monster now?
Yeah, that's a good point.
No, but I don't understand this idea that I have to, because people are grieving somewhere else, I must now act sad as well. Like, that's not fair. What am I doing? Inheriting their trauma so I can be a victim as well? No, that's wrong. People are going through their own stuff. I'm going through COVID my own way. Like, don't worry about it. I'm fine. There's worry about the people who, and send your thoughts and prayers to those people. And I think a lot of people have been ridiculous about COVID. And actually, you know what? I don't think it's just about COVID. I think it's just some people, when they're sick, are just terrible people to be around. Just terrible people. You know? And it's those that are making, I mean, rich people are ridiculous. And that's who I'm taking the piss at, really. And I will continue to do so. So if people think I'm going to take my foot off the gas, I feel zero guilt. I feel zero guilt. Like, COVID, is it terrible? Yes. Am I going to take the piss of rich people who think they've got COVID in their beautiful apartments and they need to tell everyone how to behave? You can go straight to hell, to you rich people, is what I'll tell you.
So no sympathy from MKT?
Absolutely not. Absolutely no sympathy to anyone who thinks they need to get offended on anyone's behalf. Please don't get offended on people's behalf. If those people who have tragically lost family are going through the mourning, don't worry about it. They don't need your fake social media, oh my God, we with you. You are not. They have tragically lost family members forever. Please don't try and like seem like a good person, because I hate that. I'm not going to try and seem like a good person. I'm going through what I'm going through. I'm telling you what's happening. You know what I mean?
I feel like you being alone in your apartment for 2 weeks has given you a lot of time to think about this kind of stuff.
Oh, no. I mean, I've been like this for forever. I've been taking the piss out of rich people forever. Please don't think this is the beginning. I've always found hoity-toity people ridiculous. Like, ridiculous. It's like, you know, and again, James, you come from you have an Afrikaans mother, so I'm pretty sure she'll tell you this. Like, my mom was back at work, right? So this is the kind of family I was raised in. My mom was back at work the week after she gave birth to me. They're like hoity-toity moms who've never lifted a finger in their lives, and the toughest thing they do in a day is put makeup on, that want to tell me being a mother's a full-time job. Give me a break. You know, like, it's those types that I have no time for.
Yeah, like where they pretend a certain situation is terrifyingly difficult, but they don't actually know the full sort of extent of like being a full-time mom, like a real full-time mom kind of thing.
Well, look, being a full-time parent is hard.
Yeah.
But your situation is not harder than the next lady or man. You know, do you know how some people are like, oh, it's just so hard.
You know, I get in my Range Rover every morning and I drive the kids to school, and once I've dropped them off, it hits me.
And those are the people who need the piss taken out of them, especially regarding COVID, when they are 1,000% fine, right? largely we know the people that are passing away are generally poor or very old. Right, so we know that. So generally, it's not yuppies in Bryanston and Zurich that are passing away, right? It's generally old people and it's generally poor people, right? It is not the yuppies. Like, please do me a favor. And the first people to come out, you never hear poor people coming out to go, "Oh, you're being so insensitive." It's always these terrible yuppies. It's always them that come and tell you what a terrible person you are. And I'm happy to give them a middle finger. It feels good, by the way. It feels great to give yuppies a middle finger.
I feel like this is another instance where our views kind of agree, but also don't. Like,
oh, that's because you're a northern suburbs yuppie and you feel triggered.
It's also because I have empathy.
For who?
People. I'm not saying I feel sorry for the pretend full-time mom person who goes to Tasha's on a Saturday or on a Monday morning to meet up with the girls and have a coffee.
Yeah.
I'm not standing up for those kinds of people. But I don't know, I just, like with the whole COVID thing, it is a situation that I don't think anyone on the planet has ever experienced in their lifetime, like to shut the whole planet down. And people are struggling in many different ways, not like just because of COVID. It's also because of like mental health and people not being able to deal with lockdown or isolation or being by themselves for extended periods. So in that sense, I'm a little bit more empathetic. Also, my mom had COVID and she's also got asthma. So like that whole situation was kind of scary. But I'm not...
Wait, was your mom on social media telling everyone how hard her life is?
So that's what I was about to say. Like when she had COVID, none of us were like, day 3 of COVID isolation.
Sorry. Nobody cares about any of you guys. You weren't sick. Was your mom on social media every day?
No.
Posting to people about how hard her life is as her life was being threatened by COVID?
No.
No, because she's not a dickhead yuppie who wants everyone's... This is actually a perfect example of why I have no room for it. It's making my point even more. Here's someone who was possibly dying. What did she do? Got on with it. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you. So we don't need you. My life's harder than anyone else. There are people who are on the brink all the time. And I think rich people need to have the piss taken out of them because... yes, mental health is real. Yes, all of this stuff is real. It's a lot easier in your beautiful apartment. Do you know what I mean? It is a lot easier than 99% of the world who live from paycheck to paycheck. And we can't let rich people get away with being ridiculous anymore. We just cannot. I'm sorry. I refuse for people in COVID to think, oh, well, it's hard for me when I'm rich too. No. It's not as hard for you as other people. And you need to hear that. You know, the best people are complaining is the yuppies. And there's your mom, not on social media once, and she was going through the most. Or not, James?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, like, we had told family, friends and stuff, but, like, we didn't make a huge deal about it where my mom was posting every second day on Facebook of, like, day 2 in isolation and COVID's really setting in and blah, blah, blah. Like, we didn't need to do that whole thing. In terms of sort of mental health and isolation stuff, yes, it's a lot easier when it's the middle of winter and it's 5 degrees outside and you're in your Bryanston 3-story house.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot easier. But like in my opinion, mental health is still mental health, and regardless of your situation, or regardless of, you know, your financial situation or where you live or anything like that, it's still mental health, and people still like struggle with it.
And I totally agree with that. So I must be very clear. I totally agree that with the mental health thing.
Yeah.
But in life, we have to acknowledge, I don't care how hard your life is, that when you are doing it in Bryanston, it is infinitely
Yes.
easier,
Yeah.
infinitely easier than most of the world. And my only problem is that thinking that your life's the hardest is what it's because I was raised in a home where do not complain. My father, like around my father to this day, my family across the board knows. Do not complain in the context of your life. I have an unbelievable life. Life's hard for everyone, by the way. There is not a single person whose life is harder in terms of the mental. We've all got families, we've all got stuff going on, right? Is when you put the context of my life on it, do not complain. That's the home I come from. Do not complain. It is not about you. You have got maybe the easiest ride in the history of mankind. Right?
For
That's
sure.
what I've got.
Yeah.
I have the easiest ride in the history of mankind.
Yeah, well, I
It
mean,
doesn't reduce mental health. It doesn't reduce the truth of all of those things. But there has to be a context. Does there not, Jack?
sure. I think, like you say, you are in a situation that is infinitely easier to deal with your, underfloor heating, your house in, not going to say the area, but you've got a roof over your head. It's the middle of winter. You're not exactly freezing at night.
No, I'm
It's-
too hot. I'm too hot. I actually had to take layers off. I'm too hot.
I mean, like you say, your context and your situation is infinitely easier than, like the 86-year-old granddad in the middle of like a Soweto township, who, is more prone to getting COVID or more prone to sort of getting the flu, which turns into COVID or whatever during winter. So yeah, I think it's all about context. I'm never gonna measure people's different mental health based on their what is it called? Socio-political status. What would it be called?
Socioeconomic.
That one. I'm never gonna sort of say, okay, because you're in Bryanston, your mental health is more important than the grandfather in Soweto.
Yes.
Like, mental health, again, is still mental health, but it's all about context and situation.
Yeah, and I do care about people's mental health. I do care about all of these things. They are extremely important to me. But again, even if let's say you're in Bryanston suffering, right? I'm not gonna make it about me. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I heard so and so suffering. Like, no, that person's really going through stuff. I need to stay the hell away. I don't need to take their grief on to seem like a good person.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
doing that. And I think that's probably where my issue lies. And you are a more empathetic person than me. I also have to be honest. I'm not an empath. Just because I was raised in that home, get on with it. Like, life's hard for everyone. Move on. But James, you'd probably get along with my mother more. My mother's more of an empath, and my sister are more your way leaning, more empathetic people. And I guess, yeah, your home, you're very lucky to have grown up in an empathetic home. Good for you, pal.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
we're still not those people that have to post our status on Facebook or anything, but yeah, I mean, I was always raised to not just care for yourself, but care for others. And I was brought up around a lot of people that would give me the shirt off their back, which I think also sort of had an effect on who I am and who I sort of grew into. And yeah, that's just how I've been sort of molded. It's interesting.
that's awesome.
It's interesting to see how differently we've been molded actually.
Yeah, and that's awesome. The world needs all types, and your parents should be, in my view, even if we disagree. I think it's a very mature thing to be able to say at 24 what you're saying, and ultimately, maybe the world needs more people like you than me. Who knows? And it is interesting to hear what you're saying, and your parents should be very proud of how they've raised you, especially on such an important life matter. So, Shout out to your mom, James. Not shout out to you though. You have had a golden carpet ride off the back of your mom's hard work, off her back. So no shout out to you, or shout out to your parents. Like, I don't want you taking the credit now. Shout out to your parents. Shout out to them.
Hey, I think I mean, I haven't done as much as my parents have. But
No, you have not.
I've
Make that very clear. Hold on. Whoa. Cannot. Let's stress that. You've done nothing. You and that's you and me, by the way. We have had a golden ride.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, let's be very clear about it. I'm incredibly grateful as I get older, and it seems you are as well.
Yeah, I mean, we both sort of worked hard to be where we are at the moment. Even stuff behind the scenes that, like, the listeners aren't aware of, that we know is going on. We're always working hard, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
You know, to anybody listening, if you are going through, and I hope this show is like a mental vacation for people, right? Is if you are going through stuff, is that your stuff is very real, you know, and you have to go through it. And I don't want to reduce it by going, I understand, because how disgusting is that of me? And I hope I was raised better than that. So there are people going through lots of stuff. The ailments, like you said, they range from the neurological, which is people with mental health and separation anxiety, and what they call a little bit of skin hunger that we're starting to see become prevalent. If you're going through your stuff, I don't want to pretend to know what the solutions are. But what I do have to say is, hey, thanks for joining us. This is a mental vacation for you. It's two really dumb idiots that are just going to talk a little bit of sports and maybe talk about TV shows every now and then. We do not know anything.
well, we really jumped in there, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Damn.
No. Hey, this is a real life show, James. A lot of people think, is this just a sports show? It's not. It's a real life show. There's stuff happening in real life. Good to have you along for the journey, James.
Good to be here. We shouldn't be called Cliff Central Sport. We should be called Cliff Central Sport, comma,
Bad name.
human interaction, comma, entertainment.
Out the gates, that one's not making the suggestion board. Now, my thought is there's no bad ideas in brainstorming. That was terrible, James. Let's pivot immediately away from that. Jimbo, good evening last night. What did you get up to? Did you do your stair walking? I mean, what are we up to with the health lifestyle? Or have you already stopped smoking? Did you get so stressed out you needed a bit of a cigarette?
So last night I did a bit of work, and then I did my stair exercise thingies. I did feel a little bit stressed last night, but I didn't have any access to cigarettes. So that's the situation we're in right now. But I'm chilling.
You're chilling like a villain at the
Yeah,
moment.
living my best life.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. Well, sports fans, we're going to talk a little bit of rugby today. You know, I've brought this subject up before, Super Rugby and the reason it needs to be saved. We'll speak a little bit about that. We'll get into Man City's report for the season, and then we'll talk about Group A in the Euros, and then we'll really get into the swing of things with Euros from tomorrow, and really start to delve into it. Really looking forward to all of that. Remember to like, share, subscribe, be a friend, tell a friend. The podcast is available. The MKT Show is available on cliffcentral.com, Cliff Central app, or wherever you may get your podcast. Number one, I hope the sound is a little bit better today. We've been troubleshooting, so hopefully we sound as good as I did this morning on Gareth's show. You know, I was on Gareth's show this morning, by the way, James. Gareth Cliff, absolutely hilarious guy.
Subtle flex, huh?
No. I mean, let's be very clear. I'm a big deal. I mean, I'm not. That is not a subtle flex. I'm a big deal.
He is quite a funny guy. He does walk into the hub at Cliff Central often and just says one thing that's hilarious.
Yeah. No, he's a funny man. So, a very good show this morning. It was nice to, and it was nice that I was already up. You know, it wasn't like, I got to get up for the show.
What was it? A show where they asked you how your COVID experience was, or what was the show about?
No, it's just Gareth classic show. You know, we spoke a little bit about my COVID experience, but it wasn't about that. Just, you know, regular stuff. A lot of the stuff we were talking about just now, how I'm feeling about COVID, and that's when he told me that some people think I'm taking the mickey out of COVID, and I'm like, oh, you know, I don't really care what people think, to be honest.
Everyone has an opinion, man.
Great, and it's great. You should have an opinion. I love it. You know, if you're gonna work in my space, if I'm gonna have an opinion, I better be ready for people to hate my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
You're absolutely welcome to hate my opinion. I have zero problem with that.
It's like yesterday, they were speaking about load shedding on the area group, and someone said something which upset a lot of people, and then all of a sudden everyone had to have an opinion, and there were just messages flying back and forth, and it was all super political, and I was like, guys.
Listen, community groups are going to get you if you don't keep your head on a swivel, huh? You got to make sure that as soon as you got to read your message. Because there are ladies who and gentlemen, but mostly ladies who stay at home for a living, and they are like, their job is to be on community groups. I've been at the sharp end of community group messages. No, thank you. I am out of there. So I've had people try and add me to the complex group here.
Oh yeah.
Immediately got out of there. Immediately got out of there. Don't need it.
Everyone has a damn opinion. They were talking about load shedding.
Oh yeah.
And like someone said something, and then this person was upset, and then that person, and then like the message that killed it all at the end was some super long legal disclaimer about how the admins of this group are not responsible for blah 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 blah, and you are responsible for your own messages. And then after that message came through, someone was like, yeah, silence from your side, thanks. And then it just ended, and I was like, whoa, guys.
Amazing. Man, you gotta love it. Listen, living in isolation also brings out who people are, and it's just fantastic to see it.
Oh, it's incredible. Especially because I know this area, and I know your area.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are those sort of stay-at-home moms or, work from home people that have nothing better to do than tell the helper to clean the windows properly, or complain on a group, or those people. That's hugely prevalent in my area, and probably more prevalent in yours.
Oh, I mean, we're all just people trying to get along here. You live where you live, I live where I live, and I hope you can be happy where you live.
I'm living my best life.
Just be grateful for what you do live in a slummy area, but anyway, that's not the point. Let's not open up those old ones. All right, Jimbo, good to have you with me. Let's get into it. We are actually a sports show. It's been quite a bit of non-sports talk here. Welcome to it. Let's start off with the rugby. I'm a South African oak. And I love that about myself. Spoke about it this morning in Gareth Cliff's show, where I said I feel, and whether right or wrong, as though hypermasculinity is disappearing. So I'm not a cerebral person. Right? I've never considered myself a thinker. I've never considered myself as somebody who is smarter than the next person. Not because I don't wish I was. Now, I wish I was smarter than the next person. I wish I was 1% IQ, but I'm not. I am not. I'm an oak. I'm hypermasculine. I love dressing rooms, and I love boarding school. I love environments where it's the lads, right? So that is my life's perspective. Hypermasculine, high performance environments have always been my life. That's all I've ever known, and it's where I've felt most secure in life, which is why I love rugby. I love rugby. It's a warrior sport. There is no mucking about. There's no place to hide in rugby. If you're not fit enough, somebody's going to snap your collarbone in a tackle, right? It's a beautiful sport because it's honest. And I've been watching Super Rugby Trans-Tasman, and it has broken my heart because a bunch of nerds, right, in boardrooms are doing their best to ruin rugby for everybody. For everybody. And before we get into that, let's start off with this. Listen, if your home is broken, please don't tell other people how to run theirs. I'm pretty sure in your life right now, you have one or two people who are happy to tell everyone how to run their household, but their own household is broken. They're the first person at the braai, at the barbecue, to tell you how to run your life, but you inspect their lives, how they speak to their partner, their family relations, and it's a shambles. Right? Is don't tell other people how to fix their homes until you fixed your own. And there's also another element to life. Life's realities dictate to us who and what we are, and we have to learn our place in life. You don't get to just do what you want with no consequences if you don't have leverage in life, right? New Zealand as a country got far too cocky regarding the rugby situation. Far too cocky. Because they made what they're displaying is something called a correlative dissonance. They made a huge error because they presumed they were the best rugby team in the world. They presumed they had the best rugby market in the world, which could be independent and didn't need anybody. Really what New Zealand is as a country is tiny, weird, and conservative. Right? Weird accent. To be quite frank, they look weird as well. Like, nobody's ever thought New Zealand, you know who's good looking? New Zealand men or women. They are not. They're like this tiny little weirdly incestuous country in the middle of nowhere with a weird accent, with more sheep than people. They're really conservative. And quite frankly, the location is a nightmare for 99% of the world. The only people who think New Zealand is an ideal location is New Zealanders. They have no leverage. And it needs to be clear to them. But again, sometimes in life, you need a pandemic to show you what your real position is in life. James spoke a little bit earlier. People are struggling with mental health, with this and that. Before the pandemic, we were hiding it by doing shopping or going to braais and drinking every weekend. You know, distracting ourselves from our true state. COVID has brought to the surface everything that we are, and it is no exception for New Zealand. They're a tiny, weird, conservative country who cannot do anything without anybody else. They have no natural resources other than sheep. And rugby has been exposed in this sense. Because here's their problem. They thought, we've got Australia as an ally. Oh no, it turns out Australia don't care about rugby, and they haven't for a while, and it's catching up with Australia, and that's catching up with New Zealand now. Right? Here's the truth. COVID's going to be around for at least another 2 years. At least another 2 years. You saw that New Zealand shut their gates to everybody, and they've patted themselves on the back as though they have revealed and found St. Peter's chains. The truth is they have sealed themselves from the world and reduced their economy, their rugby economy, to zilch. They are dying on their own, and they don't have a market to sustain a sport which is quite frankly amateur. COVID's going to be around for another 2 years. If New Zealand think they're going to survive on 5 million people as a market, and not all 5 million people in New Zealand watch rugby, I'm almost certain of that, they're in a situation now which they made. They chose to cut South Africa off. A consumer rugby market, if numbers are to be believed, of around 12 million. Just the rugby consumers in South Africa, 12 million. Tiny by South African standards, but almost triple New Zealand's population. Rugby in Australia and New Zealand may never recover, all because of decisions they made. What they have to do, like all grown-ups, we've all made mistakes in life. Admit you made a mistake, come back hat in hand to South Africa, and let South Africa set the way forward. And there is only one way forward, because without these three countries, rugby is finished globally. There are only 3 countries to take seriously in rugby. Only 3 on the globe. New Zealand, South Africa, England. Everybody else is suckling at the teat of those 3 countries. Nobody cares about England. Nobody cares about Ireland. Nobody outside of those countries, we don't care. I've never heard a Springbok fan going, I wonder what Ireland are doing this year. No one cares, because when we actually are what we are, we're going to beat you 45-0 and we'll send you home with your shillelaghs. Right? That's what's going to happen. Nobody cares. England, because they've got the economic power. They don't have the athletes. They don't have anything to do with sort of world-class rugby. But what they've got is the money, and they will buy the athletes, and they will buy the people they need to put them in the conversation, right? So that's the economic power probably of the world right now, not just rugby, in the world. So you need England because you need the money. Money buys clever people gives us better rugby. New Zealand is the best coaches, the best systems, the best structures. South Africa is the best athletes on the planet. So those three must always be together in order for rugby to grow. And this idea that rugby is a global sport, it is not. England, New Zealand, South Africa. Australia don't care about rugby. Rugby union is a far second to rugby league, which is about the fourth or fifth sport in Australia. Folks, through the whole Trans-Tasman tournament, there's been 2 Australian victories. I didn't make a mistake, I didn't stutter. 2 Australian victories in the entire tournament. New Zealand know they made a mistake. Now, are those nerds up top going to actually have the brains to say, we made a mistake? And listen, I've said this to you before, men are terrible at this. Listen, I know ladies will take back shorts 3 times. I'm telling you an example of a real friend of mine. She's incredible. She'll take the same shorts back 3 times. She'll like them, hate them, like them, hate them, but she will take them back and get a full refund. Guys will keep jeans for 3 years and never wear them. Because it's about ego. It's, I want to be right. Men are terrible at saying, I made a mistake. This is the time to grow up. If you're New Zealand, right, tuck your tail between your legs, come back to South Africa, come back to England, and here's the way to save rugby. You play your tournament, South Africa plays its tournament, its Super Rugby tournament, England play their tournament, the top 2 meet in a Champions League format. That needs to be locked in for the next 5 years. Australia, nobody cares. You go play with Fiji, Japan, whoever, nobody cares. You don't take rugby seriously. This is about being elite. We need to sell rugby globally. New Zealand is the coaches. South Africa is the athletes. England is the money. We rotate the Champions League final every single year. That's the only way to save this thing. It is the only way to save it. England and South Africa alone is not enough. Because you know why? If you want to have a premium product, you cannot leave New Zealand out of rugby. New Zealand, it's not, as you're seeing on your own, it's not enough. Because you don't have the money of England to actually push the product. You don't have the money to push the product. And quite frankly, I'm tired of waking up at 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning to watch you play the Waratahs. So when you play on our timelines, more of the world gets to watch, and everybody knows nobody likes to watch a replayed sport. I don't want to watch the rugby at 5 in the afternoon when it was on at 7 this morning. So New Zealand needs the money from England, England needs the athletes from South Africa, and ultimately New Zealand needs the competition from both. That is the only way. I've thought about this. How do we save rugby? England, New Zealand, and South Africa must come to the table and say, how do we do a Champions League where our best are on against each other 6 times a year after we've had our local tournaments? If New Zealand are honest with themselves, there is no saving the Trans-Tasman. There is no saving it by adding Japan. There is no saving it by adding Fiji. Nobody cares about those countries in rugby. So why would we care now? And you're a weird, quirky country in the middle of nowhere. People will eventually stop waking up when England and South Africa have all the best athletes playing in their Rainbow Cup, which I still don't love, but whatever. Eventually, we're not waking up at 6 o'clock on a Saturday and Sunday. I'm a South African, but I love rugby. But there's a limit. I got other stuff to do. I've got families. People have husbands and wives and children to raise. I love New Zealand rugby. I got to be honest. I like it. I've realized this has shown me I like it. If I loved it, I'd do anything to watch it. I'm not willing to do anything to watch it. I'm a Netflix kid now. I will consume on demand. You don't tell me when to wake up. I'll wake up when I wake up. And I'll watch it when I want to watch it, where I want to watch it. Rainbow Cup's on at the perfect time. Rugby has no other options and must stop being cocky. It is still a tiny, parochial sport that needs to combine its forces. It's not the English Premier League. New Zealand mustn't confuse themselves and think we're the English Premier League. Rugby as a whole barely has a market. New Zealand on its own, quite frankly, has no market without the international game. You may love the Crusaders in Canterbury. Nobody outside of Canterbury cares. Americans don't care, the Chinese don't care, quite frankly, South Africans don't care. And the British certainly do not care. They are not getting up at 5 in the morning to watch teams from places they cannot say. Get it together, get over yourselves. You made a catastrophic error at New Zealand to try and shut South Africa out. And now your chickens are coming home to roost. Listen, I saw the numbers. The numbers are out there. Go and see how much the numbers have dipped for Super Rugby viewing. Folks, it's expensive to watch sport. We are not getting up for the Crusaders to go and beat the Brumbies 85-0 every weekend. Get it together, get your egos together, and quite frankly, rugby needs to hear a cold, hard truth. Nobody cares. You are not the Premier League. You're not the NFL. You are not the NBA. You have no brand because you haven't built one. You thought the All Blacks was enough as a brand. It is not. And it's incredibly sad if you're a rugby fan. The only way to fix it is for New Zealand, South Africa, and England to get together. England has the money. South Africa has the athletes. New Zealand has the brains and the coaching. Those three must sit down. And I don't care now what the IRB, I've told you for months, the IRB is a bunch of old people and nerds who are out of touch. Get rid of them. Start your own thing. And we already had Sanzar, so I don't know why that didn't carry on. It broke up because New Zealand are too cocky. But this is what life will do. It will humble you. If you get ahead of your station, life will humble you. And New Zealand are learning a lesson now. Oh dear, we're stuck with Australia who don't care about rugby. Japan are nowhere near good enough. And Fiji aren't going to add anything because unfortunately they don't have the resources. Those are my thoughts. You have to, it's the only way to save rugby. It's the only way to save rugby. Because as much as I love international rugby, you can't have international rugby as the center of the business model. The local products must then on their own work in order to keep feeding the international game. And we see what's happening with international rugby. Guys are going to the big clubs in France and England. And rightfully so. I've always said rugby players are criminally underpaid. Criminally underpaid. They got to go get their money. It's diluting the international product. You know it, and I know it. Now, I've always said South Africa are lucky. Whilst we have Afrikaans oaks, and whilst we have Venda guys, and whilst we have Zulu guys, we're never going to run out of the athletes. For every year, it sounds like it looks like there's a Van Skalkwijk or a Van Niekerk or a Chivumbu that's coming out of the woods that is the size of a house and is 6% body fat. So South Africa is never going to have problems on this front. Never. South Africa is going to keep churning out athletes. But unfortunately, our administration has gone to the dogs. That's where the English come in. Their admin and money is awesome. Great. Take the athletes from South Africa, give them the British administration and money, and bring the quality of minds from New Zealand. I'm telling you, it's a home run. I am telling you that is a home run for this, because rugby is a tiny sport. And sometimes people get too cocky, and you need to save them from themselves. Rugby needs to be saved from itself. Now, James, you're a terrible Afrikaans person, and you don't really like rugby. That's why your family had to leave you in Johannesburg and actually moved to the coast.
That's the exact reason. They didn't want to follow their dreams or anything. They were like, James, you hate rugby. See ya.
Well, it's one of the reasons. It's your alienation of the Afrikaans community. Obviously, has many aspects to it. It's the fact that you don't like rugby is a part of that.
I wouldn't say I don't like rugby. I just like I would watch it if it's on TV.
Oh my goodness.
But like I'm not like, oh, I have to watch the Crusaders versus the Sharks. I can't miss that one on the weekend.
This is why. Do you have an Piet in your family? Damn surely. Every Afrikaans guys are Piet.
George.
George.
Yeah.
This is why George hasn't phoned you in 6 months. That he just wants to talk to his nephew about his thoughts on the loose trio for the Lion series, and here you are worrying about facial products for your beard. I mean, to the Afrikaans community again. I mean, I've got obviously lots of friends in that community because I'm a good person. Also, I got to tell you, one of the greatest things, I was telling somebody on the phone the other day, one of the greatest things that ever happened to me going to school, where I went to school, is there's lots of Afrikaans farm boys there. And one great thing the Afrikaans farm boys did for me, why I have such an affinity to the Afrikaans community, is that the Oaks clapped me because I was a loudmouth from the city. And they smacked the loudmouth out of me in school, and it was one of the most awesome things that I needed to actually get my head together. So they clapped me sort of Form 3, especially in Standard 8 or so. And then by then I was right by the end of, and we were thick as thieves. So James, again, an insult to that community who I'm very close to. So
look, if you ask some people, I don't think you were clapped hard enough.
Yeah.
But that's just what I've been hearing on the streets.
Yeah, but James, how would you know? You're a yuppie from the who's never been clapped by anyone. So how would you know I wasn't clapped hard enough? You're just a softie from the suburbs.
Hey, I may come across as a softie from the suburbs, but I still did all the stuff like played cricket in the rain and played outside. We went to a farm once a year in the Eastern Cape, and we get all muddy. I had a childhood, is what I'm saying.
What you've just said actually sounds like Mary Poppins. You sound like what you've just described as Mary Poppins, not a tough guy.
No, I'm saying I had a
singing in the rain and a mud bath.
No, I come across as a yuppie. However, I did have a great childhood. Is what I'm saying.
That sounds like a yuppie. Yeah, you sound like a yuppie. Yeah, a great childhood where you didn't get smacked. Yeah, see, Oaks used to get vicious on the at school. But anyway, my point is, we'll get into the comments. I see there's quite a few comments regarding the rugby. We'll get into it in media with James. But I'd love to know. I'm at MKT Inspires on social media. I'd love to know. South Africans love rugby, man. It's the last bastion in this country of a jersey that is respectable. It is the Springbok jersey. The Proteas have gone to the Dogs, and Bafana Bafana is the biggest joke in the world. So it is the last thing as South Africans that unifies us with pride. And it's why I want rugby, especially in our country. Because now, after New Zealand did what they did, they can go straight to hell until they come back to us hat in hand and they say, we are sorry for what we did, right? They must come begging. And now we must squeeze them right by the nuts because we've got them by the balls. We must make sure we get all the leverage. We've established the relationship with England. Every term that happens from now on, because I bet you New Zealand are going to come back because they know they've got no choice. But now we must squeeze them, and they must get the least money. They must get the worst TV slots. We must get the second most money because the English have the money, so they'll obviously take the money. But we must really squeeze the All Black Rugby Union, and we must make sure that we leverage it to the hilt and ensure that Springbok Rugby is the power in world rugby following this. Because life very rarely presents an opportunity to us in life to have the leverage to win. I hope our administrators realize that this is our moment now to take over world rugby and dominate for the next 10 years. And I really hope that's where it goes. I
think South African rugby at the moment is in a very good place. Maybe not with the Rainbow Cup. But definitely with the Springboks and you know, how it's been brought together through Rassie, and I think a lot of people saw that during the Chasing the Sun documentary. So I think Springbok rugby is in a very good place, not South African rugby.
I think what's important is when things are going well, that's the time to ask yourself, how can they go better? Because often what we do in life, and this happens with Bok rugby and all of us in life, right, is often what we do is we wait for things to go terribly before we ask ourselves, what could I have done better? Like now, things are going well within the Springbok camp. I hope we can have the vision, especially now we've got New Zealand this pandemic has presented Springbok and South African rugby. We are the best location in the world. Our weather's incredible. We've got space. We've got beautiful stadiums. Our timeline is perfect for most of the world, right? South Africa has a prime location now in terms of as a business to grab world rugby by the balls and say, let's unite this thing, and we are the home of rugby now. And I don't know whether we will. I doubt it, because our administrators, I have no faith in. But then we must say the picture must be for the next 15 years, rugby runs through South Africa. And we can leverage that by using the UK money and New Zealand's vulnerable position to ensure we position ourselves that way. And I hope we can. I have my doubts, though. But we must save rugby. And although Bok rugby is in a good place, that's not sustainable. You need the entire system to be in a good place so that it can keep churning out high quality coaches, high quality rugby. Because again, in life, don't presume doing well doesn't mean you're going to be doing well as a given in 5 years' time in life in general. How many times have you seen friends of yours in a good relationship or doing well at work, and they and we got to be careful of that. Is don't get comfortable now because Bok rugby is doing well now. Is press on, keep doing better, keep upgrading, keep exploring international markets while ensuring that the local systems are getting fixed while things are good. You know what I'm saying?
There was a large portion where you broke up there, but what I wanted to say is, in an ideal world, that would be the sort of move for Springbok rugby and the sort of best position to put ourselves in for the next 15 to 20 years, like you say. But as you know, in South Africa, a lot of stuff comes with politics. So, I mean, it'd be great in an ideal world, but how much of it is actually feasible with the politics involved?
Listen, politics is everywhere where there's money. I think sometimes in South Africa, because we're a sensitive country right now, is that we mustn't think politics in South African sport is unique. Listen, I worked with the IAAF, International Athletics Federation, for a long time. We have no idea what bureaucracy is in this country. I hear people complaining about the bureaucracy in rugby and the politics. It is nothing compared to the IAAF. It's just because it's affecting us again, that we feel, oh, it's so terrible. But I'm afraid where there's money, there is politics. Now, the politic can change. In our country, it's often about color, about race. But the politics always exist where there's money. Where there's money, there'll be people with agendas. And if you don't believe that, you're not living in the real world. So I don't mind the politics so much. Is just get it together. Like I don't mind the politics because it's a part of life. Politics determine how you get a packet of chips into your country. So politics and economy will forever be tied. And sport is big economy, so you better expect big politics, whatever the politic may be. So that's not what I mind. My big problem is when the politicians are the idiots who try and run the business side of things. And that happens too much across the board. We keep blaming ourselves. New Zealand, the reason they're in the position they're in is that they let a bunch of nerds and pen pushers make decisions for rugby players and for the rugby community. I mean, we saw what the New Zealand rugby players said afterwards. Aaron Smith and these guys coming out and saying, we need to play South Africa. Because they know. Listen, you can lie to idiots. You can lie to talking heads. You can lie to the media. You can lie to Twitter. You can't lie to rugby players. The All Blacks know what the toughest challenge is. It's playing us. They know that. There's nobody else. There is nobody on earth who will challenge the All Blacks year in, year out, like the Springboks. It will not happen because there isn't a Frikkie and a Skumbuzo, right, being churned out of every farm, left, right, and center, like we do. I just don't know how we do it in this country. It's unbelievable. A new 110 kilogram Afrikaans guy and Zulu guy and Venda guy are being churned out every bloody year. And my God, do I love it. And the All Blacks know this. There's nowhere else for them to go if they want the apex challenge, because iron sharpens iron, and true warriors, which a lot of the New Zealanders, of course, come from the Maori culture, and the warrior spirit is in those guys. Warriors don't like to fight against piddly, weak Australians. That's not. They don't want to fight piddly, weak Englishmen. They want piddly, weak Irishmen. That's not what the All Blacks want to do. Certainly not the players. And the reason why they're in this position, and I know we always say our politics is the worst, it's a bunch of political moves that were made by administrators in New Zealand. That is the only reason. So we must be very, very careful of just worrying about our own politics. It's everywhere. These people, and you know my position on politicians. These pen pushers and nerds. You know my positions on them. And they're ruining New Zealand rugby. Whether New Zealanders want to admit it or not, and they'll be back. And boy, oh boy, do I love it. I love that we've got the upper hand.
I also think the fixture, the All Blacks versus the Springboks, is an incredible marketing opportunity, and already an incredible marketing machine for World Rugby itself. Because, I mean, the build-up that happens to, the Springboks playing the All Blacks at Ellis Park. That's like a historical fixture, and it's great marketing for rugby. Whether it'll be the same post-COVID, or even when the international test season starts, is a different story. I hope so, because I can tell you that if I was aware that the Springboks were playing the All Blacks this weekend, or even the Springboks were playing England, Australia, France, whoever, if the Springboks were playing, I think I would watch that over, oh no, the Bulls are against the Stormers in the Rainbow Cup this weekend. I wouldn't even put it on. Honestly, I wouldn't.
I think you make a great point there, Jimbo. And you know what? Your mom was in marketing, I think, for a long time. Another point to add to that is that, isn't it easier, and people like your mom who've actually worked in marketing at a high level would know, that it's always easier to market a product which is the best. So New Zealand, South Africa, All Blacks South Africa markets itself. The problem now is, as much as they try and shove Super Rugby Trans-Tasman down our throats, we're not idiots. You're not going to market me that like it's the best. Like, excuse me, do me a favor. Honestly, Gray Blum's first team will beat every single Australian team 100-0 after what I've seen. So you're not going to sell me that, mate. Like, you can put the marketing rubbish spin on it for as much as you want. I also have eyes. I have eyes. I've seen the fact that Australian teams only won in the whole round robin tournament 2 games. Okay, stop the lies. It's not a premier tournament. What's missing here? Okay, these oaks from the north of Gauteng called the Bulls. Okay, what's missing? The Lions. Okay, what's missing? The Sharks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I was going through Facebook this morning before the show, and there was a headline I read, like Bulls flank or Bulls something was injured for the upcoming Rainbow Cup game or whatever, and I was not interested for a second. Literally scrolled down to the next post. It was a Springboks thing about the team selection and what Ninaba had to say. And I clicked on it and I read through it. So the Springboks as a brand is a massive, well-oiled marketing machine. So is New Zealand Rugby, despite what they've done. The All Blacks is a huge international brand.
Yes, well said, James.
I mean,
Well said.
they work very, very closely with I think it's Adidas is one of the All Blacks' sort of biggest marketing partners. And I mean, despite what New Zealand Rugby have done on the admin side of things, I think it's still going to continue to be a big brand.
You know what? I think if they're not, it would be easier when South Africa, England, and New Zealand, the Rose, the Springbok, and the Fern, are marketing it together. Rugby's not big enough. It's not like the Premier League, where the Premier League football is already, the appetite for football is so incredible and growing globally. You think China and America have barely started in terms of actually salivating for this thing. So, there are 3.8 billion viewers watch the Premier League every weekend.
That's huge.
Every weekend. 3.8 billion consumers watch the Premier League every weekend, right? I was reading something about Formula One. 1.8 billion people watch the Formula One the whole season.
Good Lord.
So you must understand, rugby must understand it's more Formula One, because it's a really complicated, expensive sport to get into. You need 15 other people. You got to be a certain shape. So it's a really complex sport for America to take on. It's complex for China to take on. The Japanese are trying, but you know what I mean? It's not like football where everyone can just play in the street, unfortunately. And I love rugby. So I think cooler heads need to prevail. New Zealand needs South Africa. South Africa needs New Zealand. South Africa and New Zealand need England, and England needs both. And it would be far more powerful to bring those three incredible brands together and start selling them globally as a trio than try and sell this weird island country on its own, which nobody really understands, with a weird accent. And also, what you need is for the local market to be good as well, so that you can keep staying at the top. By the way, that's how you do it. It's not going to just keep going. The only reason South Africa keeps winning, you know why? We've got this best sports rugby system or sports system in the country, is South Africa's school rugby system. So it's going to, of course, if the system is functional, that's why we keep churning out these rugby players, is that the most professional sport in South Africa, easily, and it's not close, is schoolboy rugby. It's not even close. So the system is strong, and the Springboks are benefiting and are very, very lucky for now that schools, the private schools in particular, take it upon themselves to pride themselves on rugby as a selling point. So that system is looked after by incredibly smart, wealthy people, and we see the benefits at Springbok level and junior Bok level. New Zealand, I'm not so sure you've got that luxury. You've only got 5 million people. It's not like South Africa, where I don't care how good your school systems are. At some stage, you're just going to run out of athletes.
We have endless Van der Merwes.
Van der Merwes and Dlaminis growing up on the farms in KwaZulu-Natal and Bloemfontein. It's fantastic. My God, do I love it. To the Zulu and Venda and Afrikaans community, keep churning those boys out, and I am loving it. We are just like mowing people over. And if you live in the Go-Bokkerveld, if you keep churning out more Brayton Pulses and Cheslin Colby style, he's from the Western Cape, I believe. So keep churning them out, and I'm loving it. I love it. So, but let's be careful. I think rugby needs to save itself, and we need to stay switched on. It makes me sad as a rugby fan that New Zealand took the path they chose. So absolutely terrible, I think.
Hey man, we live in hope, huh?
A great friend of mine said, hope is not a plan. So I personally don't live in hope. James, you can live in hope. I don't believe in hope. Hope is not a plan. Do something about it. Hope is not a plan. I'm not in that business. I'm not in we live in hope and we hope for a better day. No. I will make a better day happen, and the All Blacks need to make it happen. Otherwise, rugby will slowly die, because they are a crucial part of rugby, and we don't want them to die off. We don't.
They are. I mean, the All Black brand during the World Cup, I read, I can't remember what they were, but I know that I read some crazy stats about just the All Black brand during the last World Cup, and how influential the brand was for that World Cup. For the life of me, I can't remember what those stats were, but I know they were just mind-blowing stats that you wouldn't think rugby would have, because it was like this global impact that the All Blacks had. So yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, again, we live in hope.
I highly urge you to go and read the All Black book. Wayne Smith, obviously one of the sayings about the All Blacks is better people make better All Blacks, but the philosophy of the All Blacks was written incredibly. Obviously that famous era of Tana Umanga, Alama Iramia, Peter Alatini, Christian Cullen, Jeff Wilson, Jonah Lomu, and they went on to win nothing. And they talk, the way they talk about what it means to be an All Black after 2003 when Wayne Smith came back and everything was changed. And then, of course, they went on in 2005 to demolish the British and Irish Lions 3-0. And Daniel Carter put on the performance of all performances. But if you are a sports fan and you are into, because I love the stories and philosophy of sport, and the All Blacks, when you go and read that, you think, how sad is it that their rugby we may talk a halved economy for their players if they don't do things correctly, because COVID's not going anywhere. So yeah, let's hope that they turn that around. All right, Jimbo, let's move on. We'll move on to football now. And it's the end of the season, and it is the last report I will give for the Big Six Premier League. It is for the champions, Manchester City. I mean, where do I start? You know, is if you haven't been following, you can go and listen to the previous episodes. I've done the traditional top six. I started at Arsenal, who finished 8th, and I am ending up at Manchester City, of course, the champions. So I'm doing a report card, as we all know, the dreaded moment where you got to take a report back to your parents, or dreaded for me. I mean, if you're a dum-dum like me, and every school report was like James says, a live in hope. You know, it was traumatic for me in terms of coming home and having to bring my school report home. Yeah, it was a whole sitch. But let's get into it. Manchester City's report for this season. Let's start off with the squad. The defense, A+. A+. The defense is A+. Right? Best centre-backs, best right-backs, best goalkeepers. Simple as. A+. Right? Cancelo's the best right-back in the league. Diaz is the best centre-back in the league. And they got the best goalkeeper in the league. You don't have to like it. That's what happened. Midfield, let's move on. I mean, it's simple. I don't want to go over it too much. This is basically the report card of a nerd who makes everybody feel bad in school. Actually, I wish I was one of these people. I'm a huge fan of nerds. In midfield, they had the best defensive midfielder. Rodri was the best defensive mid. They had the best central midfielder. Gundogan was the best centre mid. And the best central attacking midfielder, Kevin De Bruyne. The midfield was an A+. An A+. They were like, what do you want? Rodri was unstoppable, an immovable force in front of the back four, and a metronome for his team. Gundogan turned into prime Platini, and De Bruyne did De Bruyne things. The forwards were where they took it to another level. In Mahrez and Foden, I thought they, especially at the end, because Foden didn't play the whole season, but at the end it started to be silly. And I thought Bernardo Silva was sensational this season as well. It's an A++ for the forwards. Just an A++. Mahrez was this was the season he was bought to be what he was this season. This is what they bought him for. He gives you an incredible dimension. He gets the chalk on the boots. He stretches the pitch, which Pep absolutely loves because it creates holes in the half space. And you saw what Bernardo Silva and Foden are doing in those half spaces. De Bruyne in those half spaces. It's been silly. Mahrez crucial for Man City. Foden sensational. A++ for the forwards. A+ for the defenders. A+ for the midfield. A++ for the forwards. The captain, Fernandinho. I read an article that Fernandinho called everybody together when things were wobbling early on. And he told them, this needs to be cut out. There are expectations here. And once after that meeting, we saw where it went. So A+ for the captaincy. A+. For the management, A++. Three words: relentless, ruthless, precise. That is Manchester City from top to bottom. Unstoppable, irresistible, and immovable this year. The management, everything about Man City reeks of excellence. From top to bottom, it is surgical. The standard is the best or nothing. And they will not compromise. They will not settle for second best. Whether you like them or you hate them, you've got to acknowledge that they are the best. It has been quite phenomenal to watch them keep that intensity for the entire season. It's been something to, everything about it, the way they got constructed. People say, yes, they spent their way to the top. I completely disagree. You spend your way with quality. Liverpool are trying to spend their way to the top. They lasted one season. Chelsea tried to spend their way to the top. They came nowhere near it. Manchester United are trying to spend their way to the top. They came nowhere near it. Man City have spent the last 10 years spending correctly. Money's not enough. If you're a Man United fan, you understand that. If you're a Chelsea fan, you understand that. Money is not enough. Tottenham have tried to spend their way back into the top four. It ain't gonna happen. Man City have two brilliant players in every position. That's not a mistake. They haven't broken the world record for a single player. They've spread the money out through the squad. Liverpool made mistakes. They broke the world record for the keeper. They broke the world record for a centre-back. They spent 70 million on Keita. Chelsea spent 90 million ultimately in the end on Havertz, 40 million on Werner, 40 million on Ziyech. That has not worked out. It's too much money all in one place. The squad was a little bit thin, and unfortunately they couldn't deliver in the end. Man City have been brilliant from top to bottom. Just spending isn't going to work. Liverpool thought they could buy their way into being a dynasty. Sorry, you can't spend 40 million on Oxlade-Chamberlain and think that's going to work. Do you know what it looks like when you got to tell people you spent the same money on Oxlade-Chamberlain as Manchester City did on Gundogan? It's embarrassing. You bought Virgil van Dijk, world record, yes, very nice for one season. Ruben Diaz and John Stones, in the end, costing just a little bit over what Van Dijk cost on his own. Maybe a better investment to get two centre-backs. I don't know, I'm just old school like that. So this idea that nobody else is spending is rubbish. They're all trying, they just don't know how to. Man City are a pure system of continued excellence. And this is what happens when you've got excellence from top to bottom. Everywhere else, there's, at Liverpool, I feel like there's excellence at the top. The ownership is magnificent. Jurgen Klopp, I've never been all over him. I'm not huge on purely emotional people. I think that has a lifespan. So Liverpool has some excellence at the top. I think Jurgen Klopp is probably second tier as a manager. The squad is, you're seeing now, a little thin. So no excellence in the squad really across the board, right? Couple of injuries and it's the end of the world. Couple of injuries at Man City, not to worry. Don't even worry about it. We've built the squad over 5-6 years, so we don't need to worry when Kyle Walker gets injured. We got Cancelo. When Cancelo gets injured, we got Kyle Walker. When John Stones gets injured, we got Laporte. Don't even worry about it. Zinchenko gets injured, we have Mendy. So that is built over years, and it's magnificence from top to bottom. And for Man City, their report, A+. They are A+. It is a Duck Scholar. They are getting every single offer from any university globally they want. It is an A+. They are the Duck Scholar. Relentless, ruthless, and precise. The best in the business. And my God, if people aren't careful. Now, this is what a dynasty looks like. If you are Liverpool, this is what a dynasty looks like. 4 titles in 5 years, and it don't look like stopping. And what I love about Man City that Liverpool failed to do, when things are going well, Man City are still going to improve. They're going to pile it on. they may go for Harry Kane. I don't think they'll get him, but they'll go for 2 or 3 more improvements. They may get another centre back. Nathan Ake, I don't think has worked out, and they might get another holding midfielder with Fernandinho aging. They may get themselves somebody to pair with Rodri, and it'll be magnificent. And they'll keep rolling, and people will keep crying. But as winners do, they will keep rolling on. So shout out to Man City, phenomenal season. Something James and myself have never seen, an A+ on their report card.
It's because we're stupid.
Yeah, that's true. But we just talk about sport. Thank goodness we don't have to be smart. We're just a bunch of guys on a talk show talking about sport. Thank goodness.
I think your report, nail on the head. Don't have much to add, really. It's Man City. They had a great season. I think one thing stopping Pep from getting an A++, because I think you gave Pep an A++. I think, in my opinion, the one thing stopping that is if he had won the Champions League. Because, I mean, an A++ is like perfect, right? It's like 100%.
Well, listen, he got to a Champions League final. You're talking like the guy lost. The difference between, I mean, and in fairness, he lost to a great club. You know, it's not like they lost to Liverpool.
Okay, so let's agree on Pep getting an A+ and a half plus. Yeah, look, spot on. City are busy dominating English football. Still a little bit hit and miss for European football overall, but definitely one of the top clubs in the world at the moment. 4 titles, 5 years. Almost won a Champions League. Did the double. Not much else to add.
Fake double though. Fake double. Like, let's get that.
Who? Man City?
Yeah.
Oh, because it was the League Cup, eh?
So it doesn't count as the
Yeah.
So there's actually it is a stat, League and Cup double, and I think I stand to be corrected, but I believe Chelsea and Manchester United still the only 2 that have done the real double.
Oh, hectic. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
they did the Mickey Mouse double. Not much more to add. How much more silverware do they want?
Yeah, jeez. I mean, flipping out. What are they going to do? Come take my spoons and knives out of my kitchen as well?
Save some for us, you know?
Yeah, freaking greedy guys. But they're brilliant. And, you know, this idea, and in life, money's not enough. When you have resources, you have no excuses. There's a reason the top banks are the top banks in the world. There's a reason the top hotel groups are the top hotel groups in the world. Is that excellence is expected. We pay you the most. Come here and deliver. And Pep Guardiola has been nothing short of sensational. Just as Fergie was in his time, he had the biggest transfer kitty. But that comes with a responsibility. Fergie, it came with a responsibility, and he delivered. Pep, it comes with a responsibility. When you have the money, spend it right. We've seen it go wrong for so many teams. Everton have tried to buy their way, and they came 10th. And it just didn't work. So the culture at Man, you know, for me, I've told you this before, James. Culture eats strategy for breakfast, and the culture at Man City, it's not even about winning. It's about excellence across the board. Everything about Man City just looks excellent. Everything they do publicly, and it looks like privately. And if you've seen the documentary on Amazon, it's just about excellence. It flourishes everywhere. I read a report from an insider at Man City that the first thing Pep Guardiola got there and said was he went to every single employee, from the ladies in the canteen right up to the executive, and said, it is your job to be the best at what you do all the time when you represent Manchester City. Now, it might seem silly to some of us, but that's the type of guy you're dealing with, right? Even the tea ladies that were spoken to. And I mean, that just tells you that's a guy who wants to change the culture, right? And culture's hard because you have to keep an eye on culture all the time. Otherwise, it erodes. Culture has always been explained to me like trying to stay in good physical health. You can very quickly, in 2 weeks, gain weight and gain a tummy, right? It takes years to get a six-pack, but you constantly have to be on it, and that's what culture's about. Is you constantly, as they say, the psychological model is you constantly have to be pruning the garden, right? Get rid of the weeds at all times, otherwise they will ruin everything. And Pepper is just an embodiment of that right now.
Yeah, absolutely exceptional. As much as I hate to see it, um, yeah, phenomenal stuff.
I think we all hate, unless you support Man City, it's excruciating stuff. But again, dynasties don't last forever. I don't think this is going to last forever, but for now, let's just enjoy it. Jimbo, before we carry on, we're going to move to Group A of Euros. I think we should take an intermission. But before we do that, do we have a poll today? And if so, where can people go and vote?
We do have a poll today. People can vote on Cliff C Sport on Twitter. And the poll is... I should have pulled this up just now, huh? Just put me on the spot like this. So the poll for today is... Friday marks the beginning of the European Championship. Today on the show, we'll begin our build-up with an analysis of Group A. Your question in the poll is who you got. Group A's teams consist of Turkey, Wales, Italy, and Switzerland. The poll is on Cliff C Sport on Twitter. You still have 21 hours and 53 minutes to vote. Italy are still in the lead with the poll.
Italy, huh?
Yeah. Cliff C Sport on Twitter.
Hey, they are a stingy football team. They do not concede. Roberto Mancini's hair is looking out of this world, James. You have nothing on that guy. He obviously knows somebody who knows how to condition.
Well, he also obviously knows how to run an international football team, because I read some stats on the Italian team, and they are the dark horses of this damn tournament.
Yeah, hey. We'll chat a little bit after the break about that. Italy, Switzerland, Turkey, and the Welsh. We'll chat about them in a little bit. We'll delve into that group a little bit more. I'm at MKT Inspires on social media. James, do you have social media?
I am James_Ilsley on the gram, and then on the tweets it's at Ilsley James, ILSLEY.
Why don't you just make it one thing?
We've had this conversation, and I told you that James_Ilsley isn't available on Twitter. I don't think that was the reason. No, I had
What about just James Ilsley?
No, I had Twitter before I had Instagram, so Ilsley James wasn't available on the gram.
But why don't you change it? So Ilsley James is not available on Instagram.
Yeah.
So then, what is your the Instagram is?
James_Ilsley.
So why don't you just change both of them to James_Ilsley?
Yes.
I mean, what is this? Anyway, after this is what you're gonna get. Like have I just revealed Jesus is like have I just pulled the nails out of Jesus' cross for you there? Like is this like a huge moment?
It is a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you.
So you never thought about what I'm saying?
Maybe I have. I just it hasn't really bothered me.
Okay, well you should change it. I mean, make it easier, you know.
Maybe I will. Maybe I won't.
You probably won't. You probably won't.
It's all dependent on how I want to live my life. And
oh my gosh, what an independent woman! Well, you're such an independent, single woman in the big city, James. You ain't gonna let no man tell you what to do.
Strong, independent woman who don't need no man, son.
Go get him. You know what would have been perfect there if you had TLC. What's the song? Or I think it might be Destiny's Child. I'm a survivor. You know that one? That would have been perfect if you said that. Like, I'll live my life how I want to. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I live my life at the speed I want to live my life.
It's horrifying stuff. All right, James, I'll tell you how I want to live our lives right now. All of it. Let's take an intermission.
Cool.
Nice to see there's lots of comments. By the way, at Cliff C Sport on social media, it's hashtag the MKT Show live. My name is MKT. This is the MKT Show. See you in a bit. Welcome back to the MKT Show with me, MKT, and I am joined by a man who absolutely is not grateful for anything that's happened to his life because he still can't condition his hair. You think to yourself, you know, our parents put so much effort into us. The guy's 24 years old. You'd think by now he'd know how to condition his hair. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Jimbo, what's happening, pal?
Hi. My hair is not looking so great today, is it?
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. I mean, especially after seeing Roberto Mancini's hair last night as I was doing some kind of looking into the groups for Euros. Your hair it's actually an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to your name. If I'm your mom, what I'm saying is change your surname. That's how bad it looks.
I am a disappointment.
I mean, I've got other words for it. What I'd say if I was your mom and your stepdad, I would say just change everything about yourself. Have a complete... In fact, if I were them, I'd move 1,200 kilometers away, if you know what I mean.
Look, they made their choice. They did what they did. I'm not going to hold it against them.
James, people's actions are always talking to us. You know, we are the things we do, not the things we say. The fact that your family moved 1,200 kilometers away means you need to make some serious life changes, Paul.
Look, I wish it was for them to follow their dreams.
No, get away from you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's what I'm coming to realize.
So, but make the changes. They'll move back. I mean, there's obviously a huge list of changes that you've got to make, but just start making the changes now. By the time, probably in 10 years' time, they might think to themselves, you know what, he's trying. Let's move back. Let's re-invite him to the Afrikaans potjies that we have. You know what I mean? Those sorts of things that they actually... I've said this before, James. Your family is having the time of their lives every weekend. Plus, your stepfather's a culinary maestro, so he's probably cooking up a storm every weekend for the family. Everyone comes round because they live. Do they live near a marina or are they in a marina where they live now?
They're in a marina type thing.
Are you kidding me? The boat is out. Oh, get out of here. Obviously, because they're law-abiding citizens, so they don't have any beers and stuff on the boat. But 2 boats, everyone's having a laugh. Yes, snarks, George. Look. And they're just loving it without James. So, I mean, that's tough to hear, James. But somebody's got to tell you what I'm saying.
Is that your impression of Afrikaans people, huh?
Yeah, just bias snarks. Yeah. Yeah, frikkie. So yeah, boerewors. And then everything rolls on from there. Do you know what I mean? And they're just having the time of their lives. And the potjie. I mean, you can imagine with your stepdad being a high-level chef, probably he allows the meat to mature overnight in that black pot. You know how when a potjie is made properly, the really gets into the meat, and you know they're probably on the guitar over the water. Your little brother's probably serving everyone drinks, and just everyone's happy and laughing and like, James isn't here. There's no yuppie to spoil this for us. We can be as Afrikaans as we want and actually be happy and merry as a family.
And rubber ducks playing in the background.
No, probably not. I mean, they probably got Kooskom bass rocking. You know what I mean? Just make it full on without you, James.
I can tell you right now, it's either rubber duck or ABBA.
Oh, ABBA. Is that what's going on for is your mom into ABBA?
My mom's into ABBA and super into rubber duck. But rubber duck's dope. I like rubber duck.
Yeah, listen, ABBA, your mom's probably going, whenever you're coming down, she's going, oh, Mamma Mia, here we go again. And she's done super well to avoid you for this long. Like what I did there, James.
I'm in so much pain.
All right, let's move on. The MKT Show, welcome back to it. Let's get into football. Big week. Listen, I'll be honest, right? The Premier League is what we're all about if you're into football, right? If you're into rugby, the best version of rugby was Super Rugby, probably at around Super 10, Super 12 at most. When they went to Super 15, it's kind of like what international football is. It's like kissing your sister. It really doesn't count. It's a crass example, but it doesn't count. But it's something. And I know lots of people, I'm not into it. but people will tell you all the time it's better than nothing. I hate that mentality, by the way. I want what I want when I want it, but people will tell you it's better than nothing. It is a really watered down version of the World Cup, but should be fun. Should be fun. So I'm looking forward to supporting Finland, by the way. I support Croatia and Finland, but Finland, those are my people. Well, my second people. I mean, am I going to support them over South Africa? They can go to hell. If they think I'm supporting them over South Africa, they can go straight to hell. Don't pass begin, don't collect 200, go straight to hell. South Africans are my people, but spent a bit of time as a youngster in Finland. You know what I'm saying, James?
100% with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, so, all right, but we're gonna have a bit of fun with it. And I was hoping we'd be more in studio. We could probably be a little more interactive. But we will have Euro fever. We will be with a little more resources back together next week. And we'll really get into Euros properly. But I thought we would start reviewing Euros. We'll start with Group A, James. At the very top is Italy. Incredible. Mancini's done a really, really quiet a job. They haven't lost a game in qualifying, and they've been miserly in terms of conceding goals. Incredibly good team. Immobile is the star man there. For me, Italy are my favorites to win the whole tournament. So the Azzurri, they're like Germany. They're always in the mix, aren't they?
Italy really your favorites to win the entire tournament, though?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I think they're rock solid at the back, and they've got Verratti in the midfield, Immobile. I mean, it's Insigne. It's a decent team. Belotti, look out for him up top. Big number 9 from Torino. Really, really nice team. I like them. They're solid at the back. They've got great experience. They've got a high-quality goalkeeper. They've got another one who I think we'll see now that he's leaving AC Milan, because everybody's comparing him to Buffon, which is just stupid. For those who don't know, Gianluigi Buffon made his debut for Parma at 16 and was a legend until 40. If Donnarumma can have 10 years at the level that Buffon played at, he'll do well. So I don't want to quite put that kind of pressure on him, but they are loving him and they are talking him up. And we'll see what he is as a keeper now, because the pressure will be ratcheted right up. By the way, Enrico Chiesa, or I forget what Chiesa's name is. You want to know how old Gianluigi Buffon is?
42.
Buffon played with Chiesa's dad and won a trophy with Chiesa's dad at Parma, and also played with Chiesa's son and won a trophy with him at Juventus.
Oh, I read about that the other day.
Yeah, that's the kind of legendary levels you're talking
Wow.
about. And let's slow down with Donnarumma. I know Twitter likes to talk people up, but they've got a proper team. They've got a proper team, and Roberto Mancini, legendary footballer and manager, they've got him as well. So they're looking really good.
So you say Italy top Group A?
The top Group A, and I think they'll win the group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Other teams, Switzerland, they've got the guy who looks like a bouncer.
Xherdan Shaqiri.
Yeah, he looks like a bouncer. Do you know what I mean? He looks like he's always looking to fight somebody. You know how short people get that waddle.
He does look like one of those. No, not gonna say that.
What were you gonna say?
Nothing.
Like short man syndrome, guys.
I was just gonna say he looks like one of those short, angry midgets.
Can you say midget? You might get cancelled. Is midget still okay, or what do people call Peter Dinklage?
What are you supposed to call them?
No, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. James, you're supposed to be the young woke one.
Nah.
You're talking about mental health and being sensitive.
I
don't know. Do people say midgets? Oh, I say midget, but is that the PC word? I'm sure somebody in the comments can help us out. Yeah, he looks like, when you used to go to, or I don't know if you still go to clubs, James, but when you go to clubs and there's just that guy with the short guy with the really, really good-looking girlfriend who's just looking for a fight. Like Shaqiri looks like that. Like, hey, you're looking at my chick. You're looking at my chick. What? Is there a problem? Did you have a problem? Yeah.
The guy that thinks he can crack you, but he just.
He's got the best looking girlfriend in the place, and she's like 6'1". Doesn't he look like that guy?
He does. And you know what makes it worse? He doesn't help his own case, right? He sorry, I was reading one of the comments. He wears his pants lower than his waist, so it looks like he's got even shorter legs.
Yeah, and he's got that squat build, and like he walks around with that like short guy angry waddle. You ever seen Tom from Tom and Jerry?
Yeah.
That's what he looks like all the time. Like,
Dr. Niquin Adams says little people is apparently what we have to call them.
oh no, but no, hold on. No, you see that cancels out a whole part of the human race because James, obviously, because you went to AFTA, you don't understand idiosyncrasy.
That's true.
And is Doctor? Have we been here before? Is Dr. Niquin a real doctor?
I don't know.
I hope Dr. Niquin's not like a doctor of philosophy. That's not a real doctor. And my mom's a psychologist. That's not a real doctor. Like, I mean, is Dr. Niquin? Dr. Niquin, are you actually a doctor? Because I'm gonna make myself either look stupid or ask a decent question.
What do you want from them? Do you want them to email their CV through to the show? What are you hoping from this?
Don't call yourself doctor if you're like Jacob Zuma, you know, like he's not a real doctor. You guy didn't even get through primary school. But anyway, whatever. Let's move on from that one. My point was by saying little people, there's an issue there, because being a dwarf. And James, you may not know this again because AFTA doesn't teach you anything besides how to edit film, is that being a dwarf and being a midget is not the same thing. So what happens now to dwarves and midgets is, are they all just going to get lumped in there, and are they happy now about not getting identified as their own sector of society?
Well, Kutle says, I believe it's dwarf, and I'll be reporting James to the PC police.
See, but hold on. Midget and dwarf are not the same thing. So we must understand that those are not the same. Just so you know, they are two different sort of sectors of the human society. Again, so Dr. Niquin, if you are a real doctor, you should probably educate us there.
What do you mean, not a real doctor? A doctor is a doctor is a doctor.
No. You see, this is the problem with going to AFTA and not being able to get into a real university. A doctor of philosophy is not a real doctor. Please don't give me that rubbish.
And how many doctorates have you achieved in your life?
No, absolutely none, which is why I respect it. Or just because I don't have a doctorate, it doesn't mean I can't respect it. Well, what does that have to do with anything?
Well, why is a doctor of philosophy less than a doctor of...
Because a doctor of philosophy, all they can do is type on a typewriter or a laptop. A doctor who's a surgeon can save the life of a 13-year-old if they're bleeding out.
Okay, so again, how many doctorates do you have? Getting a doctorate is still insane.
Oh my gosh. It is getting a philosophy doctorate and becoming a doctor of medicine, right, is the difference essentially between lifting 10 kilograms and lifting 1,000 kilograms.
Nah, dude. Dude, being a doctor is a doctor is a doctor, dude.
No, I tell my mother all the time. Now she's got 2 doctorates, so there is a whole level to that. But even then, I'm very clear with my mom: she is not a surgeon. Like, don't get ahead of yourself. You're just a psychiatrist. Settle down.
Nah, dude.
Like, there's levels, right? There's endocrinologists. You know, there are these real creme de la creme where they start to specialize. You know. Please do me a favor.
Nah.
Being a general practitioner versus, again, I always go back to surgeon. There's a multitude of different specialists. Because are you aware that surgeons have to do another like 4 or 5 years to specialize, by the way? You probably don't know that part.
I don't, but...
So hi.
But how many years do you have to do to get your doctorate in general, regardless of whether you're a surgeon or a...
7 in South Africa, and then you specialize. It differs between. So my mom is specialized for 6 years after her doctorate, but like some surgeons, it's between 7 and 9 years, 7 and 10 years even to specialize as a surgeon.
So you're still specializing for 6 years, bro?
Oh, yes. No. This is why I'm telling you that a doctor of philosophy gets his doctorate, or fake doctorate, by the way, absolute nonsense, but he or she gets it, and they are that forever now. Like they are, a surgeon still has to go and basically do another doctorate.
Nah, bruh. A doctor is a doctor. I
Um,
I have mad respect for people that are doctors,
Whatever.
dude.
You went to AFDA. I mean, I'm not going to respect your academics. I mean,
Speaking of doctors, okay, so Doctor,
Dr. Kumalo, not a real doctor either.
very correct. I agree, and am aware of that. Okay, so Dr. Niquin Adams says, I'm sure James will agree, it's all relative. And then they also say there's a group called Little People of America. They advocate for the rights of previously termed midgets.
Ah, okay. Well, that's good because often midgets get thrown in there with dwarfs, and so good for them. See
So,
that?
so is it little people? I assume.
Well, I don't know. Listen, I'll have to do the research. And Dr. Niquin Adams has, well, possibly a Dr. Niquin Adams has opened our eyes until we know that this is not a doctor of, I don't know, like marketing. Like you got a PhD in marketing. Like, sorry, you're not getting any credit for that.
Again, bruh. Doctor is a doctor is a doctor.
No, it's not. Doctors, and it's that's very funny where Dr. Niquin said it's all relative.
It is all relative.
And by the way, another thing for me is because I hold doctors to the highest. So, because they're scientists, right? Is doctors are scientists. They're biological scientists, and it is less than 1% of the world is smart enough to get into any dum-dum, James. Even you could get into a philosophy degree. So any dum-dum can get in a philosophy BA degree, right? As a BSc student, I feel very confident saying this, and graduate. Anyone can get into a BA, so do me a favor. Less than 1% of the world has the intelligence, right, to get into a doctorate. By the way, a medical doctorate, just as a junior undergrad. Less than 1% of the world has the marks and intelligence and the chutzpah and the wherewithal to stay with it. The stress of being a doctorate student is insane. A medical student. So I hold them to the highest order, which is why it's always important to me. Are you a GP or are you a doctor of philosophy? Because it's an insult to real doctors, like Dr. Niquin, if he or she is a medical doctor. I don't want them being lumped in with morons who go and do like communications and they call themselves doctor whatever. Sorry, I'm not giving you that. All right, let's move on. So Switzerland, phew, I mean, you got what? Granit Xhaka, that's not going to work, eh?
You got a little bouncer man, Granit Xhaka.
Well, yeah, Shaqiri's the bouncer man, but Xhaka as well.
I
Also,
mean, yeah, I messed that one up. That's my bad.
but no good. No, like Switzerland, there's nothing about them that I like. Nice country, clean air, nice lakes, but other than that, they can forget it. They're going home. Then a bunch of turkeys. Um, Listen, Hakan Kalaglu, something happened last year.
A lot of things happened last year. We had a lockdown. There was a pandemic that happened.
Yeah, listen, he was supposed to go from AC Milan, I think, to Arsenal, and there was some talks about Chelsea. Just didn't go through. He's on a free transfer. He's the star man this year for the Turkeys, bunch of turkeys, and it's not the turkey that was before. I'm afraid, just like good old Christmas, they're going to be put in the oven and put out to roast. It's going to be embarrassing. They're not the team.
I think you mean Thanksgiving.
Do you not do turkey on Christmas?
Uh,
I'm not American.
I'm not sure. I think we do gammon.
Gammon, yeah, that's a very British thing. But James, are you the luckiest man in the world to
Dude,
have
Christmas time in my household is the
really?
greatest time.
So for those who don't know, James's stepfather is a chef, and so has he always had his own restaurant, James, or was he working at sort of hoity-toity restaurants?
Working at a couple of catering companies.
Okay.
He started on the ships. I think he was on the ships for like 4 years, so he traveled the world as a chef. But that was when he was like first starting out. And then they bought a restaurant, I think 2 years ago, and then moved down to the coast.
Well, that had nothing to do with the moving to the coast, but I don't really want to get into your trauma. So, is he like those hoity-toity Michelin guys, or like at that level, hey?
No, no, but when it's Christmas in my house, I think he starts cooking at like 9, and then he just cooks like most of the day, and then food's only ready by like 3, 4 o'clock. But he's done like all the trimmings, like creamed spinach, stuffing, Yorkshire pudding, gammon. There's like lamb. There's, dude, it's just so much food, and it's so great.
Can you cook?
I'm decent. I can't
Oh,
do
gosh,
all of that stuff that he can, but I can make like
what,
spaghetti.
Oh, my goodness, this is disgusting. James, is there anything? I mean, both your parents have put so much into. Is there anything you took from these wonderful people that you're actually going to be useful with?
I've lived alone for like a year and a half, 2 years, so I'm pretty sure I can cook. Like I can cook spaghetti bolognese. I can cook.
So you don't cook spaghetti. I mean, you just put that in the water. So what you're telling me is you can boil water. That's what you've just told me.
But you're forgetting about the mince and adding the sauce to the mince and adding the garlic and the onions and
hello.
all of that stuff.
Hello. Oh, okay. All right, Jimbo in the kitchen.
Also, I can make crumbed chicken kind of from scratch.
But James, obviously, because you're on a health journey now, you're not going to be eating crumb chicken as much as nice as it sounds. You're now going to be eating clean, naked chicken.
Yes, yeah.
With and you're not going to be deep roasting. You're not going to be using fish oil for your potatoes anymore. You're going to be putting them in the oven now. Obviously, you're just roasting them clean, maybe with a little bit of avo oil or grapeseed oil. Sure.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Because you're putting, you're getting into the health lifestyle, so you're not going to be doing crumb chicken anymore.
Definitely, yeah, for sure.
It's inspirational to hear. All right, let's move on to a country your stepfather may or may not love, the Dragons of Wales. Gareth Bale taking on the community, of course. Gareth Bale is the star for Wales. I think they're the best of the rest. I think Aaron Ramsey will want one last big tournament. Some big problems there. His career has been blighted by injuries his whole career, and it continues. It seems as though he might be out for the first game, but I think between him, as Liverpool fans called him, the Welsh Xavi, Joe Allen, he'll return. Yeah, we all remember. The streets will never forget, James. The streets will never forget. It's the last. They're all getting old now. This is the one where they need to actually go and deliver. They've got Dan James on the right, so they'll have nice pace with Bale, James, Aaron Ramsey, and Joe Allen controlling things in the midfield. So I think this is the time for them to give it a proper push. And I think of all those teams, I think Wales have I believe in the best players, and I think Gareth Bale is the second best, or he's the best player certainly on ability in the whole group. And I think cometh the hour, cometh the man. I expect him to have a big performance against Turkey and Switzerland, and I expect Italy to go through with Wales.
Yeah, not many complaints about that. Wales, obviously, probably one of the favourites to progress through. I don't think anybody should write off Switzerland, though. They can be good on a good day. So, yeah, whether it's Italy and Wales or Italy and Switzerland, we're yet to find out, obviously. But I think Turkey have the roughest ride because, as I say, Switzerland on a good day can be pretty good. Italy, that's just not even a debate. Wales also, they are prone to having their good games and their bad games. When they have their bad games, it is horrible. It's a train smash. When they have their good games, they 4-5-0. So yeah, I think either Italy, Wales, or Italy, Switzerland.
Okay, well, it'll be interesting. Gareth Wales, it'll be his last tournament, and then obviously he'll do his best to try and join the PGA Tour following that.
That is apparently his career plan. He wants to finish out his contract and become a pro golfer.
I hope he brings the Wales Golf Madrid in that order flag. I don't know if you ever saw it when they pulled that bad boy out for one.
When they pulled it out and he didn't distance himself from it, that was when I knew Gareth Bale and football. He was just done with it. He's like
a legend of the game. I mean, he's so rich. He's so rich. He just doesn't care. All right. Those are our thoughts. Italy, Switzerland, Turkey, Wales. That's Group A. I've picked Italy and Wales. And James, have you actually picked anybody?
Not a definite. Either Italy, Wales, or Italy, Switzerland.
All right. Well, you got to pick a definite. I mean, there's going to be an internal prize for this. We'll have to come up with what we get for if we make the correct prediction. So I'm picking Italy to win the whole thing. Your pick to win the whole thing, James?
Oof, I didn't even prep that. I would love if Spain won the whole thing because that's who I'm rooting for. That's who my international team is.
I would love Scarlett Johansson as my girlfriend, but I mean, I've got to be realistic here.
Well, look, half the Spain squad has COVID, so that's interesting. Anyway,
That's Sergio Busquets' fault.
Yeah, that is correct. Who is winning the Euros? Probably... I'm going to stick it in for Portugal, actually. I think, Portugal have a young squad. They've got a talented squad. I think Portugal have a chance. Not a chance, but yeah.
We'll talk about it when we come to those groups. So we'll review the groups over the rest of the week. Remember, Friday night, that all begins. Cannot wait to sink our teeth into it. James, you're the son of a chef. You now understand what that means.
I mean, I'm also not 12 years old, so even if I wasn't the son of a chef, I would know what that means.
Although there's a lot of things that you don't know what they mean, so,
Hey, I just want to see a nice, peaceful world where doctors can be called doctors because they're qualified doctors. And
No. Well, you got to be qualified and actually be a medical doctor for me to call you a real doctor. I'm not giving things to people. You're not getting me to call you a doctor, and you're a doctor of communications. Honestly,
it is incredibly easy to trigger you.
Yeah, you're not getting anything. All right, James. Now, what we got to do is you probably prepped yourself and you thought, okay, we're gonna have social media with James, and it's gonna be a whole thing. You're very wrong, James. We've had such an action-packed show. We have to go to the comments.
Okay, but I just want to say one thing for social media with James. It's not going to take a lot of time. It has nothing to do with sport. It was
taken a lot of time.
It was just something I read, and it was incredible. And then I'll save the rest of my social media with James for tomorrow. Okay, so there was a lady in Gauteng. It's a Guinness World Record. Okay, a lady in Gauteng gave birth to 10 babies.
You're joking.
I'm serious. On the 8th of June, a woman from Gauteng has given birth to 10 babies, 7 boys and 3 girls, by means of C-section 29 weeks into her pregnancy.
How did all the babies survive?
I have no idea. That was just the headline. So I had to bring that up. I thought it's not sport related, but I thought it would make people go, wow.
So what would that be? A dectuplet, or what do you call it?
It's decuplets, isn't it? Something like that.
I don't know. I don't know what. I've never heard of one person having a baby who isn't, I don't know, amoeba.
I'm pretty sure it's decuplets or something like that.
Okay, well, you should. Yeah. Anybody know? Dr. Naquin, if you're a real doctor, what is 10 babies? All right, Jimbo, let's get into the comments.
Let's jump in. So a lot of rugby stuff. Henry says, Mblelo, go listen to Gareth's show when Dr. Hanan Bushkin is featured. He might influence your views on hard life.
Fair enough. I'll do that and I'll revert.
Rickus says, I'm so excited about the box this year. We're coached by arguably the best defensive coach in the world. Normally a team with a good defense is hard to beat, but I'm sure he will also assist Ninabe.
100%. And the Springboks, often people forget that we also have the best athletes. So when you create a system and a structure for a bunch of, quite frankly, the Springboks are a bunch of gorillas, right? And but you create, you have, the best thing about aggression is when you can control it and hone it and actually use it like a surgeon's knife. That's when aggression is excellent. And we have got some, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Some of the animals we're going to unleash on the British and Irish Lions. They have no clue what's coming. So couldn't agree more. Ninaba, of course, a genius. Rassie Erasmus, ultimately the Tsar and the Kingpin.
Rickers says the last time Australia was still consistently competitive was when Gregan was their fly half.
That's very true. Listen, the great, and we mustn't forget, if you're old like myself and it sounds like Rickers there, even if he's joking, that is very funny, by the way. George Gregan, he played in the 95 World Cup and 99, of course. But that Brumbies era was sensational, and that was in the 90s. I think it was, James, when were you born?
97.
So yeah, they were dominant when you were still a little baby. I mean, you still sound like a little baby sometimes. So you haven't really changed much. You're just a little bit taller now.
It's true.
But from then, that 95, 96, Owen Finnegan, George Gregan, Stephen Larkham, Tim Horan, sub-team. I mean, Joe Roth, Andrew Walker, incredible Brumbies. And of course, in 1999, they went on to lift the title. Just an absolutely brilliant team. John Eales, Totai Kefu was a part of that Australia side. So a brilliant Brumbies and Australia era there. Dan Herbert, incredible Australia era, but that was in excess of 20 years ago now. So Rick is too right. And we've won 2 World Cups since then. So they can go jump in a lake.
Okay. Zapeta says, I love rugby as well, but haven't watched a full game in a while. Breaking up Super Rugby was a bad idea. Hopefully with the Rugby Championship back, it'll change things. Also, rugby needs fans.
I agree. A warrior sport needs fans, and everything Zapeta said there, I absolutely love and is 100% correct.
Rickus says, rugby is such a beautiful sport and so technical, tactical and physical. You can win by brute force or you can win by being clever, but the business model is ruined. It is run by morons.
Here, Rickus. Well said, my brother.
Here, Rickus. Do we live in like 1529? What's happening?
Oh, sorry, James. Just so myself and Rickus didn't go to AFTA. We actually understand the sort of the full scope of the English language, and I would imagine Rickus Swart being Afrikaans, we probably say goed so swaar, and he'd understand what I'm saying because we're not like you. We didn't get kicked out by the Afrikaans community. So.
Not investing in you. Zapeta says for provincial rugby, Stormers Crusaders Toulon, there should be a UEFA Champions League and UEFA Europa League type thing with promotion and relegation.
This man's a genius. Mr. Ngaba is a genius.
Nice.
Him and I are in sync there. Great band, by the way.
Like Justin Timberlake. Oh, stole my joke. Ricka says politicians are always bad for sport. Our cricket is a perfect example of it. We now have one of the worst domestic systems in the world. And then he also goes on to say the sad thing is that New Zealand is the only benchmark in rugby. Every season they win 80% of their games. All the other teams' win ratio is much lower. In football, any team can beat each other.
So you're right. Hey, I'm not going to add to that. Rickus, it's incredibly sad.
Zapeta says, Blelo, I'm hurt at your neglect of the EC as part of SA Rugby production lineup of quality players.
No, fair enough. Listen, being close on myself, I've told people, everyone in South Africa just presumes black people like soccer. If you take soccer to the heart of the Eastern Cape, they'll tell you to take that yuppie nonsense and get it the hell out of here. It's boxing or it's rugby, right? And I want to say my family is from the rural Eastern Cape, just past MKT. So I was raised on boxing and rugby by my own family. So I am being disrespectful, and I do understand that people like Franz Steyn, of course, often given credit for coming from Grey, but actually from there, Luke Watson, that Rhodes area, when you talk about that Tiffindale Rhodes area, Port St. John's area, those farm areas have produced some of the greatest. Dani Gerber, arguably the greatest Springbok of all time, Eastern Cape as well. Bram van Straten doing great work down there. So the Eastern Cape, hashtag my bad, as the kids say. The Eastern Cape, of course, the breadbasket of South African rugby. So apologies out there. Shout out to you in the Eastern Cape.
Hashtag my bad. Where were we? Oh, then we got into the little people debate. I read most of those ones. Rickus says, I think irrespective of what we call them, somehow, somewhere, someone will be offended.
Yeah. No,
pretty accurate, yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Someone's offended somewhere. Look, I'm not going to get into it again. Can we get to the bottom of the fact that, and I think I've asked this before, James, you should remember this as a producer. Dr. Naquin Adams, real doctor or not?
We did have this question. And Dr. Naquin Adams says, I'm sure James will agree, it's all relative.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Dr. Naquin's actually answered before whether they're a real doctor or not in a more clear, sort of concise. By the way, to be clear, when it comes to academics, I'm not asking James or taking his sort of outlook on anything. He's more of a touchy-feely soft guy, so I'm not really succumbing to that.
I mean, I've said what I've said about doctors.
Yeah, no, I think you've said enough. Pimo
says, hey sports. I think that's supposed to be like hey sports fans. Hello, my point is as follows. A professional sport cannot be run by amateurs. You know my detailed views on this.
I've always said this. In no world can there be more talent than there is administrative sort of nous and power. We have that problem in our cricket. We have that problem now in our rugby. South Africa is in such a unique position. We have too many rugby players and not enough coaches to coach them of high quality. We are churning out rugby players. I mean, I'll give an example I always use. CJ Stander went to Ireland and they thought he was the second coming of Jesus Christ, the Messiah of Nazareth. CJ Stander doesn't even get in the fourth team for the Springboks. Right? And that's not to slander CJ Stander. He went on to have an incredible career. From everything I've read about him, he's just a 5-star human being. And I'm delighted for CJ that he went and made all the money for his family and had a legendary career and found somewhere that considered him, someone who's brilliant. But let's be very honest. CJ Stander against the Dupree brothers, anyone we've got now. Any one of the... I mean, Marcel Coetzee can't even make the rotation squad. And I'm afraid CJ Stander cannot hold a candle to Marcel Coetzee. You must understand what we've got in this country. What we don't have is enough administrators, and it's sad because, somebody earlier said we could have the Champions League of New Zealand and South Africa. South Africa has so many good rugby players. We could actually have 2 tiers of high-level rugby, like properly high level. We could have 12 teams in 2 tiers. Let's call it Currie Cup and Vodacom Cup like it used to be. If it was run correctly and we were like New Zealand, trust me, we'd have 12 incredible teams if we just ran it properly and didn't allow pen pushers to come and mess everything up. So I couldn't agree more with Pimo there.
Dr. Naquin Adams says, decouplet sounds about right, but it's not in the medical textbooks. So,
real doctor. I mean, if they're saying medical textbooks...
That's what I was about to say. He or she is definitely a real doctor. Well, I thought they were a real doctor anyway. It was you that didn't, so...
Oh, well, on paper, again, they could be a doctor of... financial systems. And then I'd slap them in the face, say, get the hell out of here with your nerd face. You're not a real doctor.
Dr. Naquin Adams, I thought you were a doctor because of your doctorate. MKT didn't, so we'll just leave it at that.
My old duck's a doctor. I will tell you to your face if I don't think you're a real doctor, because my mom, who I love, I've told her to her face she's not a real doctor. So I'm not shy to let people know. Like, my insecurities will come through.
You know what we're also breezing over is the fact that decouplet is right.
Yeah.
And I said it. I said decouplet, and it's right.
Did you Google it or did you know it?
No, I just, so with 10, it's often, it goes up, like, shapes. So like hectagon, hexagon, that's all based on like 6 side, 7 side, octagon's 8, 9 is,
Yeah, you don't know it.
I don't know 9, but
Yeah.
like, so for a 10-sided 3D shape, it's a dodecahedron.
I'm aware of this.
And that's, anyway, so we've got another comment from Henry that says overseas clubs are contracting directly with South African schools already. I had no idea that was happening.
Oh yeah, no, that's been happening for a long time. Listen, Henry, it does concern me a little bit, but I think ultimately what we've seen, especially with the way Rassie has come in now, is that we're still keeping our first and second tier players. They snatching those third and fourth level players, which are still by Northern Hemisphere standards. Our boys head over there and they are uber stars immediately. So I think it's fantastic that we aren't losing our A grade meat, Henry, and I hope that's true. And I may be wrong. Henry might know differently. Is when I start having problems is when Grey Bloom's 5 or 6 star players every year start getting contracted out of school. And I think we've seen that the second and the third, first and second tier guys stay. Third and fourth tier, those are the guys that get stolen. So Henry, I do hear you, and we must keep an eye on that. It is extremely important that we speak to billionaires in this country and we make sure we keep the talent here. Otherwise, we will have a talent drain, and we know for no country can sustain long term with a talent drain in any industry. It is not good for the sport. It is not good for. Ultimately, listen, I speak to some of the players that have left. Nobody wants to go and play in England. They boys from here. They want to represent South Africa. They are from this land, and they don't want to go and represent another country. So we must do our best to keep this fine talent here, and just ensure that we keep dominating. It never, when you're dominating life, never take it for granted. Don't presume you're going to dominate forever. So I want us to make sure that we dominate forever.
Forever and always, amen.
But that has to be deliberate. Forever and always, amen. And amen indeed for the show today, James. Good stuff to Dr. Naquin Adams. Shout out to you and respect to you, actually, number one, being smart enough to get into a medical degree, but secondly, actually passing and going on and doing great work. I have all the respect in the world for people that save lives, and you don't have to like it, but dum-dums like me and James would never be able to save a human life if it counted, if it was our loved ones. So to you and all the doctors out there, shout out to you. Keep doing that awesome work.
Dr. Naquin Adams says, I'm a junior medical doctor.
Okay, so real doctor.
Yeah.
No, like that is a bona fide doctor. We're not mucking about here. This is Dr. Naquin Adams, number one. Also, can we maybe say how concerned we are that a doctor is listening to this show? That doctor is actively using brain cells every second going, who are these morons, and how are two people so stupid combined? Okay? That's got to worry society at some level. Shout out Dr. Naquin.
Look, there's obviously a reason that Dr. Naquin Adams is still listening.
Do you know what it's like? Maybe it's an experiment. Like smart people do this all the time. It's for him. It's just an experiment, or him or her. Sorry. It's just an experiment for them to go, hey, you know what? Let's hear how the dum-dums live and stuff they say. Because I'm like, being a doctor, they're just like high-level people. You know what I'm saying?
They probably actually all gather in a room at 12 o'clock, and then they all have their notepads and stuff and watch the show, and then they take notes on our behavior.
Yeah, like, hey, you know how people go to a park and people watch?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Quinn used to, it's like, hey guys, let's gather on, let's idiot watch for All right, Jimbo, good stuff to everybody listening. Fantastic to have you along. 8th of June, 2021. It's a great time to be alive. It is a great time to be alive. We'll get into some Euros fever in the rest of the week. Jumbo, good stuff.
Good stuff.
Everybody at home, great stuff. My name is MKT. This is the MKT Show. Ladies and gentlemen, for today we are the hell out of here.